Gemma, thank you. Now, for more on this, I spoke with the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg. Well, Treasurer, thank you for joining the latest. Let me ask you first about the economic curve. We fell off a cliff 5 weeks ago, it's fair to say that. The economy, as you've said, is losing $4 billion a week. It's already shrunk by $50 billion. 1 million jobs have been lost. I think it would help all of us if we understood from you, are we at the bottom of the curve or are we still free-falling?
Well, the economic indicators are going to get worse before they get better. Unemployment, which had fallen to 5.1% in February, is expected by Treasury to reach 10% or more. So too with the fall in GDP. Treasury is forecasting a 10% drop in the June quarter. These are very significant economic challenges for us, but we've had great success on the health front, and as you know, the National Cabinet met today. We'll be meeting again on Friday to discuss the easing of restrictions. So the quicker we get people back to work and into their jobs, the better the economy will be.
OK, but we have to get used to the fact that this slide is going to keep on going for a while. There's no bottom in sight yet, is that right?
Well, when we ease the restrictions and people get back to work, that will increase the economic activity. That will boost productivity, that will boost consumption, that will boost labour market force participation. Yeah. And that's all a good thing for the economy. But, you know, there is going to be some tough days still ahead.
I think it would help all of us to know from you as the Treasurer which businesses need to get going now. I mean, for example, one of our biggest employers is hospitality, demand for accommodation, food services, etc., down 86%. Do you prioritise that sort of business first, or give us some examples of which businesses need to get going quickly?
Well, the reality is that some business sectors like agriculture, construction, mining have continued to operate by applying the social distancing rules. That's been more difficult in retail and hospitality, and they're obviously the issues that the National Cabinet is working through. What we need to do is to follow the medical advice, to minimise the health risk, to maximise the economic gain, and we need to do that in those sectors that will enable broader employment across the economy. So more kids getting back to school is going to be really important, Mike, because their parents, who otherwise may have to left the workforce temporarily to help home educate their kids, will now be able to get back into a job.
I know you're working behind the scenes drawing up lists by Friday. After the next big meeting, do you think we'll get a list of businesses that should have confidence in getting going again?
I think we're making good headway, and again, the medical experts, together with the Treasury, are appearing before the National Cabinet on a regular basis. So the steps that the country is taking, the federal government working together with the state governments, is based on that best medical advice and should give the public confidence that we're moving in the right direction.
No, I think we have confidence in that, and we've certainly been following the right rules. But I guess what I'm asking you is, what confidence do we have come Friday that we'll get a really clear idea that some businesses will get a kickstart, be able to get going again?
I think we will see progress on Friday. That's certainly the intention of the Prime Minister, and I know that he's been working very cooperatively with the state leaders.
Treasurer, this economic crisis, as you know full well, has rewritten all the rules. Any previous recession or economic setback has been about a 7-year path to recovery. What timeline are you putting on the government's road to recovery? Is it 1 year, 5 years, 7 years?
Well, you're right to point to the 1990s as when unemployment went up by 5% over a 3-year period, but actually the employment rate did not come back to where it was pre-crisis for a whole 7 years. We're certainly hoping to beat that in the case of the coronavirus crisis, and that's why the JobKeeper program will be so important.
You've been very clear today, that's a finite amount of funding though. That's not going to go on forever, JobKeeper.
Well, we've been very clear. Our measures are temporary, they're targeted, they're using the existing systems, but we don't want the programs to require extra government spending for 1 day longer than they have to.
Going forward, pushing ahead down the track, many months, probably a year from now, supply chains have proven to be a major problem during this crisis. Do you think the government, or are there conversations behind closed doors within the government, should reinvest in some industries in part to take a stake, to make sure things like healthcare technology, some food security, maybe fuel security, medical supplies are guaranteed and not a mad scramble to source ever again?
Well, this is a global conversation as well as a domestic one, Michael, because no country wants to be left vulnerable when there's a crisis that disrupts those global supply chains. So we're very self-sufficient in agriculture. We're a country of 25 million people that produces enough food for 75 million people. But we've got less reserves than we probably should have in relation to some fuel areas, and that's something that the Energy Minister is looking at, capitalising on the low oil price to replenish our stocks, for example. In manufacturing, there are niche areas where Australia can do more, but at the same time, we shouldn't be looking to produce everything in this country because that wouldn't be economically responsible, nor even logistically feasible. So it's about getting the balance right. It's not about putting up protectionist barriers. It's about ensuring that the national interest is protected, and they are conversations and actions that the government is focused on.
All right, well, we'll look forward to some encouraging decisions from National Cabinet on Friday, Treasurer. Thank you for your time tonight.
Great to be with you.
For more on Friday's Cabinet meeting, I'm joined by political correspondent Tim Lester in Canberra. Tim, good evening to you. So how far-reaching could the relaxation of social distancing measures be, do we think?
Well, Michael, everything about the government's approach today suggests they want it cast as wide as they possibly can. They're talking economics, not health, $4 billion cost a week of keeping the measures in and the like. Changes then wide-ranging but likely only gentle because of the health imperatives. The Chief Medical Officer, Brendan Murphy, said today he expects the changes will be fairly cautious. The virus, he says, is still in our community. One other point on this, Michael, government app downloads. You know the government has said that the relaxation will depend on how Australians download, how many Australians download the app. As of tonight, 5 million, but there are 16 million Australians with mobile